To me, this is a kind of an important moment. Explain what we got here. If I may, I'll just ask. If you look at the picture before that, is June 21st, and this is at Pomona, and that's 1964. And this is when Lotus John Morton is driving the car, and this is his last outing in the car. And we don't see the surfers surface again until the next picture, which is July 5th. And now Mike Sorokin is back in the car. So Lotus John is gone, and Mike Sorokin's in the car. Well, there were some other things that happened during that time too. And what also happened was we wind up getting that 55 Chevy as a tow vehicle. But what happened on the 21st, that race ended, and then you guys got together the following week to discuss some things?
Yeah. Lotus John told us that was his second week in the car here at Pomona, I believe Pomona. And he was already bored, you could kind of tell. And so he said, look, I got to go back to sports car racing. This isn't interesting enough for me. So he left, and so now we don't have a driver. And Jimmy Crosser, our third partner, he needed to leave too because he had a family and kids and
a construction business.
Yeah, construction. He was in a framing business, and anyway, and he had work. They were building track homes in the valley by the mile, And anyway, he didn't really have time for all of this, so he needed to bail, and he had the '59 Ranchero pushcar that we had been using. So Lotus John and Jimmy Crosser leave. So here's me and Skinner. Now we don't have a pushcar.
Or a trailer.
No, we got a trailer.
It's just the same trailer.
Yeah, it was our trailer. I don't remember how, but anyway, we paid Jimmy, or we bought Jimmy out in the steal. So we still got everything but the pushcar. And so then we thought, well, okay, let's see if we can get Mike Sorokin to come back, because the only reason Mike had left was he and Jimmy had gotten into it over some things. And so we went and talked to Mike Sorokin. He said, yeah, I'd love to drive that thing. And so we said, okay, you're on. And but we don't have a push car, so we got to do something about that. Mike says, I know this kid who's got a '55 Chevy. They took the motor out of, and his parents told him he was going to put a V8 in it, and he couldn't come up with the money, and blah, blah, blah. So his parents said, get that stuff off the property. So they put the engine in the trunk, and it's just laying there. You guys can buy that if you want it. So we went over and looked at it. Looked great, so we bought this thing.
How much did you pay for it, you think?
I think $250. It was a pretty nice '55 Chevy. And now this is '64, so it's a 9-year-old car. And a '55 Chevy was
the bottom of its value. Yeah.
That was the least they were ever worth.
Yeah.
And a '55 Chevy was a very desirable. Any shoebox Chevy was a desirable piece in those days, where you could buy a lot of other 9-year-old cars for $50.
Yeah.
Anyway, and we liked it. And it was yellow and white. So we buy this thing on the end of a rope with a 6-cylinder engine in the trunk, and the front sitting high because it doesn't have an engine in it.
And you're pulling it with what?
My Volkswagen, same '62 Bug that you'll see with the drum of nitro.
And you're pulling it about 5-6 miles, you say?
Yeah, something like that. At least 5-6 miles, just the route we take to go from Culver City to Santa Monica, because we don't dare go on the freeway.
You're in the Bug.
I'm in the Bug.
Skinner's in the 55.
Yep, we got a big piece of rope, and a stretchy rope too.
Yeah.
And
Bungee cord.
anyway, everybody in the world's been through the towing deal with the rope and all of the comedy that happens. And oh, you should have hit the brake. No, I hit the brake. And almost ripped the back off the Bug. And
Yeah.
anyway, we do all that stuff, and we get it home, and we blow the motor apart, and we take it down to a wholesale engine rebuilder place in LA called Piston Supply on Flower Street in LA. We take it down there and get the crank ground and get it bored and buy pistons and anyway, buy all the stuff, and we're back. And anyway, in 2 weeks we went from here to here with a different driver, one less owner, and a new push car in 2 weeks. And we were back in business. It was the Blue Flame 235.
Blue Flame 235.
In that
I'm
Chevy,
sorry.
a stock one too, dead stock.
3 on the tree.
Yeah.
And that towed that set up to Denver, Colorado, and every other place.
Yes,
around the
it did.
country. But actually, our evolution starts from day one
Right.
and goes. I mean, this
Right.
is just a little hiccup in the thing.
Right.
But we were evolving it all the way
Right.
as we moved along.
Yeah.
And I would dare say too, on Jimmy Crosser was a key piece of our operation, because I don't think we would have ever been able to get the operation started without Jimmy. Just because he's a framing contractor kind of guy.
Well, yeah, he didn't leave because you wanted him to leave. He just had life to deal with, and you guys kind of didn't.
Well, we had racing to deal with, and he had life to deal with.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
And anyway, good old Jimmy, and he was just a wonderful character too. Anyway, Jimmy.
And you were still friends.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it wasn't like you
We're friends.
had a divide.
Oh no.
Yeah, he just didn't race with you anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And anyway, without Jimmy, it wouldn't have happened. So it isn't like all of this was important.
Yes.
Everything was important
Right.
to get to
Sure.
here.
Oh,
You
sure.
know, in hindsight, we
Yeah.
didn't know that at the time, of course. But
Right.
this thing, it has Crosser's name as Cruiser,
Yeah, that's
but his
Right.
Jimmy Crosser was Crosser.
right. Got it. For the record.
At first, we had our names on the car,
Right.
but just painted by the local sign painter, and just one little dash of nitro, and that was gone. Right? And so pretty soon we figured out that paying the sign painter wasn't going to help this operation at all. So we forgot that. So nobody knew who we were. So here's this car with
Nothing on it.
nothing on it, and it was painted with just lacquer, so the nitro would just make a mess out of it. So nobody knew who we were, and so pretty soon, I don't know who, but somebody says, "Oh, them surfer guys over there," or something, because we looked a little different, dressed a little
From
different.
Santa Monica, and you look different.
Yeah, the pants were this short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no grease on us. We didn't
Right.
like getting dirty.
Yeah.
Now you said you tended to stay away from the car between rounds. I mean, you didn't really work on it then. What you didn't find yourself into the car at those times?
Only if we had to. It was our general plan to do as much work at home as we could possibly do, because we needed to do as much learning as we could possibly do. And learning on other people's parts that they blow up is way cheaper than blowing up your parts, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we were also starting to cultivate the illusion that we didn't work on our car much, just to help
Yeah. There was psych involved in this, right?
There
I
was-
mean,
yeah.
that
to a
was
certain
just
degree.
just for fun and games.
Just for fun and games.
Yeah, and then later it turned out to be very useful. But anyway, we tried to have as much free time as possible at the races so we could learn as much as we could possibly learn.
So
We'd
you
go
were
around and watch
right.
everybody and kind of explain our presence as just because we're out goofing off. And everybody pretty much bought into it because the car didn't quit very often and we didn't work on it very often. And it worked out good. So then
Worked out in the long run.
we're watching, and
What did you hear for rocker arms at this point?
we probably still have the stock ones that we've polished and shot peened, and because we were sure we couldn't afford the Donovan rocker arms.
At the early '64, there was very few sets of Donovan rocker arms.
Well, we certainly didn't have one of
Yeah,
them, I'll tell you that.
but, our major catastrophe was breaking the exhaust rocker arm and then collapsing the intake push rod, and then you had to take when you took the valve cover off, the intake push rod would be like this, and the exhaust rocker arm would be broken. So you had to slide the rocker stand apart, change the rocker arm, and then get that push rod out of that hole because it usually bent in both
And
places.
it was like this.
And you had to straighten it out somewhat to get it out through the hole to get another push rod in there. We had that problem a lot, but I think it was because the camshaft at Howard's was pretty radical, and it was floating valves and breaking rocker
Oh,
arms.
too much left.
Yeah.
On that rocker arm deal, you guys wouldn't knock the blower off when that would happen, but we
No.
would usually.
Really?
It's because we were atomizing the fuel, so when the fire hits that atomized fuel in the manifold, it goes boom. And the guys who were just pouring the fuel in and not atomizing it very well, they didn't backfire as badly. But sometimes we'd put them, I mean, it almost cave somebody's chest in if they were standing alongside the track. One time we got Donovan at Irwindale. Donovan, he was out of breath when we came back to the pits. He says, that almost collapsed my lungs. He said, he was standing right by the edge of the track when the thing
Boom.
went into low Earth orbit.
Wow.
But anyway, ours would usually cost us about $1,500 to fix. And that's doing as much as you could possibly do and maybe a little creative sourcing of parts and so on to get a new blower and get going. And it'd be
Not to make-
$1,500.
Yeah, not to mention injectors that were on
Yep.
top of the blower.
Yep, the injector.
But now you're going to school full time. Are you working part time?
Oh, I had a part-time job too.
Oh, okay. Because
Just so I could eat and have pay rent.
well, yeah, but you just talked about $1,500 for a new blower, and so is Skinner footing the bill because
Well,
he's
Skinner's
got a full time job?
Skinner, well, he's got a job, but he's managing the money. Where the money's coming from, it all had to go, everything had to get paid for,
Right.
regardless of where it might have come from. But it didn't come out of my pocket because my pocket didn't have any money in it, right? And
So does Skinner have a mask and a gun and?
that I don't know.
Okay.
That's where he took off to.
We don't know.
we don't.
When he was gone for a while, it might have been in the slammer.
No, his
No.
mother taught him how to handle
And
money.
And Mama took care of you guys.
Yeah.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Skinner was the
Yeah.
best.
So, anyway, it was $1,500, and the Donovan rockers cost $100 a piece at the time. It was $800 was the long deal.
Wow.
And we kept thinking we couldn't afford $800. And I think about the third one of these $1,500 we went, you know what? We might be
add
able
this
to
up.
afford that
Yeah.
Yeah,
because we're somehow able to afford repairing this thing.
Right.
I mean, it's begging and borrowing.
boy, they made such a difference. I can't tell you. Being
Anyway,
able to
so at
race.
some point we get the Donovan
Yeah,
rockers, and that's the
continually.
end of that problem.
That
Yeah.
solved that problem.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then we're increasingly atomizing the fuel more and more and more. So if it ever anything happens where it lights the stuff in the manifold, it's gone.
Now, are you doing this with a standard pump?
Oh yeah, always with the standard pump.
So you had the same pressure coming from the pump. You were just atomizing it more efficiently with jets,
Nozzles
nozzles.
and higher pressure.
Something.